Welcome back to the Juice on the Cuse podcast. Wes Chang here with you. Syracuse basketball currently mired in a 2-game losing streak with Miami coming to town on Saturday. To make sense of it all, we welcome back the Juice Online senior college basketball analyst and 2003 national champion, Andrew Kouwe. Andrew, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself, Wes?
Yeah, Andrew, doing okay here. I want to get you started on this one. Syracuse on a 2-game losing streak to Boston College and Virginia Tech. Syracuse's offense has really gone quiet in the second halves of those games. To me, it looks like there's some spacing issues, maybe a lack of ball movement. And it seems like Red Autry is just kind of rolling the ball out and letting the players play. What are you seeing as the reasons for the struggles?
I think it's a lot of it has to do with probably confidence as well, and kind of that chemistry. We have to remember, we talk about it, but in essence, this is a whole new team, right? This is a team that's never played together, at all. JJ is obviously someone who's been here a couple years, but everyone else who's playing, it's kind of the first time they're all playing together. So what happens is, you get a 2 or 3, 4 possessions where it doesn't go your way and struggling to score. Just that's where the confidence comes in, and then players who have the ability to score on their own feel like, okay, I got to get a bucket. Let me just do this on my own to try to kind of stop the bleeding, and it's just a spiraling effect, and that's what happens too, just from a confidence standpoint, because when you hit those kind of roadblocks and you're a team that maybe hasn't played together for a couple years, or each other as well, those roadblocks and downturns can seem a little bit even more fierce than when you're dealing with a more veteran team or a team that's played together. So I know there's always a balance with coaching in terms of how much structure you want from plays to freedom. You want to give players to use their athleticism and their God-given talent. It's one of the great things I've always talked about with Boeheim, that I always thought Boeheim had a great feel for in-game. Right, he always had a set of maybe 4 to 6 plays that he could go to where the matchup was right, if it was for Hakeem or for Carmelo or even for Jerry, that he could go to when we needed a bucket. But he also could find the balance and had that good feeling of how the game was going, that, hey, I need to let these guys just kind of play a little bit because we're more athletic, or we just have the momentum. We don't need to. I don't need every possession to say, okay, run 53 or run too high or whatever. So it's a tough balance, and it makes it even tougher when you're a team that is brand new in essence.
I guess you see a lot of that in this transfer portal NIL era of teams that just feel disjointed and are just kind of slapped together in the offseason. Andrew, I wanted to move on to this topic. There's been a lot of post-game discussions with the players and coaches. Donnie Freeman in his post-game, and he is coming off one of the worst performances in his SU career, going 3 for 14 from the field. He said he took the blame for the loss. Red Autry the very next day says he's the head coach and the buck stops with him. Where do you stand on this being a coaches or players issue?
I think at the end of the day, right, it's I think they both said the same. Great that they said the same what they said. Sometimes it's great to see players kind of go like, listen, I had a bad game. I didn't, hold up my end of the bargain. But I think we all know it's all comes down to kind of, coaching. They get, when things are bad, they get the most heat. And if the team goes on a great run leading into the tournament, praise goes to Autry. So the coach always gets kind of the brunt of it. But I think with Donnie, this is a great example of where when he comes in, he's had some great games, some great scoring games, kind of taking over games. We need a bucket, we go to him. But now teams have tape on him, right? So now teams see that and say, okay, this is what we need to do. This is Syracuse's best player, the guy that they go to for, a lot of their scoring. So teams adjust defensively toward him. So now that adjustment's being made. So now Donnie has to make the adjustment now on his end. What does he have to do? What are teams doing to kind of stop him? What does he need to do, these next 4 or 5 games to kind of reverse that? Because you're going to have that bad game. That's just inevitable, especially when you're coming in and you haven't played a lot of games. Now the tape's there. Now what is he going to do? Does he need to be more aggressive early on to kind of give himself more space for his jump shot or 3-point shot, on pick and rolls? I think those are the little things now that the defense has made the adjustment. Now it's his turn to make the adjustment, and the team has to make the adjustment around him as well.
So, Andrew, you played the guard position for the Syracuse Orange. You were a shooting guard. JJ Starling, the team's starting shooting guard, averaged 17.8 points per game last year. He's down to 11.4 this year, which is close to his freshman scoring averages at Notre Dame. As a fellow shooting guard, what are you seeing in his game that's causing the struggles?
Well, a little bit is, his points per game is always going to go down from previous years, I think, because in those previous years, he was really relied on as terms of we need to rely on him for the scoring. Now that you have Freeman and you have some other players, right, that can score very well, even when Kyan comes in, he has a scorer's mentality. So, I think it's a tough comparison to those previous years because he was so relied on for scoring. But, when he's a shooting guard, in a form of, not in a form of like a Klay Thompson or a Ray Allen, where you think of a pure shooting guard, a 3-point shooting guard. He is more of a slashing shooting guard, right? Using his athleticism, his speed, his ability to get to the basket. And so what happens then is, as the team struggles and the offense becomes a little stagnant, it's easier for the defense player to guard that type of player because the defensive player is set, right? He's not running around chasing JJ and already at a disadvantage in terms of trying to guard him. So when we're having a lack of movement and the defensive player is set, it's a little bit, and he knows that, okay, this JJ is a slasher and I play for that. It's easier to guard, which then makes JJ's shots a little bit more difficult, a little bit more contested, and that's where it comes in. I mean, he's still shooting, I think, 50% from 2-point, inside the three. He's shooting 32% from three because that's not his bread and butter. He's a good 3-point shooter when he's kind of hot, right? When he's got that good feeling going. So I think, as if the offense becomes stagnant, it hurts him more because he's a slasher and he needs that movement to kind of give him space to do what he does best.
Andrew, let's make you Coach Kouwe for a second. You are now the head coach of the Syracuse Orange. You're charged with getting them off the schneid and getting this offense going again, getting a winning streak going. What are you doing and what are you implementing to really help the Orange along a little bit here?
I was thinking about like what, do you make some drastic changes? Like how do you go? You kind of seen of what players are good at, what's their best at. And I would kind of love, I know that we started implementing zone a little bit more, right? And there was some pluses to that. And I would love to see like if we could go more zone and even change up the lineup a little bit in terms of like, do you put Freeman and Sadiq at the 4-3, right? Have JJ actually come off the bench and kind of use that length, athleticism, and give Sadiq more time to play, because I'm a little worried that, if he's not getting enough playing time, does that mean he goes somewhere else? But then you're also switching things up a little bit. You're playing more zone. You're using this unbelievable length. You can also eventually move Sadiq in the middle, depending on how you want to do the matchups and who you're playing. And then you're bringing JJ off the bench in terms of, okay, the defense is a little bit tired depending on what time you bring him in. He's using his slashing more. It's more effective because he's fresh. So that would be kind of like, if you were to make some big changes and to test it out, I'd actually kind of lean that way to just kind of really just flip the script a little bit. But then you almost got to really, because it's a zone and the way we play the zone is very, it's not just basic, it's very athletic, a lot of movement. You got to commit like all in, like, all right, we're going to go with this zone. We're going to be hardcore practicing. And I don't know if that's Adrian, he loves man, and maybe that's just, he just doesn't like the zone, and you got to go with what you like and what your philosophy is. But I think I would kind of make that maybe big switch to see how that would go.
It's a little bit ironic that we're actually going back to saying, hey, we have the roster for the zone, because Adrian Autry didn't recruit this roster as a zone roster, but it actually has the athleticism to play one like the one that you played in with Carmelo Anthony and Hakeem Warwick on the wings, because they do have that athleticism.
And even up top of the guards, I mean, we have those are big guards, long guards, that it really, from a zone perspective, it is a really, like, to me, Boeheim would be like, these are unbelievable players for the zone, right? So yeah, to your point, I think And I think giving Sadiq more playing time, getting him more into the flow, into a rhythm, could open up, confidence wise, more on offensive, being aggressive. Like I see that there. Like I think it's there for him to really kind of make a bigger step. But I think he's just got to be in the rotation more and more, in the rhythm. And I think putting that zone in there then puts him in that position. And listen, it could go awful. You never know. But I think it would be a unique, give it a try and see where it goes.
Especially at this point with Syracuse on a 2-game losing streak, I think not necessarily desperate times, but I think they do need to change things up. And that's a pretty good suggestion to implement that zone concept more. Andrew, I want to get you out of here on this one. You always tell me you're the eternal optimist. Right now, if you read Syracuse social media, you'll find exactly none of that. Is there anything here that still leaves you optimistic as Syracuse heads into a critical stretch of make or break ACC games?
Always, just because I think there's talent on the team. There's definite talent on the team. There's talent scoring. We've seen how hard they play on defense, and that is attributed to when things are going right. It's you're even more energized to play defense. When things are tough, it makes that playing hardcore man, that high energy defense more difficult, right? Because it's just a mental. Your confidence is down. So we've all been around Syracuse basketball. We've been around, Big East, ACC. We've seen, Jerry's senior year and the run they made. We've seen Connecticut with Kemba Walker, right, come out of nowhere and make a run. I think in today's college basketball, you can make a run and with a team gets confidence and gets feeling like they can score and things are going well, that run can go. It can happen. So I'm always optimistic that it's there because I know it's not like I'm watching and saying, wow, we don't have the talent or athleticism. Like it's there. It's just got to click. And when it clicks, I think the momentum can keep going. But, it's good that maybe Miami coming from Florida is coming up to the winter storm Fern. So maybe maybe they'll be frozen and they'll have a tough time doing anything on the court. So maybe it could be a blessing in disguise that Miami is the next game.
Home court and home weather. Thanks so much, Andrew. Again, former Syracuse guard and the Juice Online senior college basketball analyst, Andrew Kouwe. We'll see how the Orange does against Miami on Saturday for a 2 p.m. tip-off. Andrew, we appreciate the time. Talk soon.
All right, Wes. Have a great one.